Before the sun ever warmed the earth, before the stars were cast into the velvet night, and long before the throne of Olympus was even a dream, there was only the void. Out of this silence came Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. Their union was a storm of creation, a collision of elements that birthed the first true masters of the universe. They were the Titans, beings of such immense power and scale that the very foundations of reality trembled beneath their feet. We often speak of the gods of Olympus, but they were merely the children who inherited a world built by giants. To understand the cosmos, we must look further back, into the age of gold and iron, to the 12 original Titans and the sons and daughters who followed them. This is the story of the Old Ones, the architects of existence, and the tragic legacy they left behind. In the beginning, the world was raw and untamed. Uranus, the sky, laid heavy upon Gaia, the earth, and from their eternal embrace came the 12 elder Titans. They were not merely gods of specific things, they were the personifications of the cosmic forces that make life possible. First among them was Oceanus, the eldest of the brothers. He was the great river that encircled the entire world, a boundless stream of fresh water that fed all the springs and rivers of the earth. Unlike the later god Poseidon, who ruled the turbulent seas, Oceanus was the silent, steady flow of the universe. He was a titan of neutrality, a being so vast and ancient that he often refused to take part in the wars of his kin. Beside him was his sister and wife, Tethys. She was the mother of all the world's water, the one who nurtured the earth with her moisture. Together, they represented the life-giving flow of the cosmos, the circulatory system of the world itself. But while Oceanus and Tethys looked toward the waters, others looked toward the light. Hyperion was the Titan of the East, the High One, who presided over the celestial light of heaven. He was the first to understand the cycles of the sun, the moon, and the dawn. His power was not just in the light itself, but in the observation of it. His wife was Thea, the Titaness of sight and the blue of the sky. It was said that Thea gave gold and silver their luster and gems their brilliance. Through her, the world became visible. Together, Hyperion and Thea birthed the celestial lights we see every day, but their own power was even more fundamental. They were the very reason anything could be seen at all. To the north stood Cronus, the Titan of intellect and the axis of the heavens. He was the inquisitive one, the master of the celestial sphere around which the stars revolved. If Hyperion was the light that allowed us to see, Cronus was the mind that allowed us to understand. He represented the search for knowledge and the hidden meanings behind the movements of the stars. His partner was Phoebe, the Titaness of the moon and the bright one. She was the original mistress of the oracle at Delphi, long before Apollo ever stepped foot there. She represented the voice of prophecy, the wisdom that comes from the heavens. In their union, mind and spirit met, bridging the gap between what is known and what is divined. In the south stood Cronus, the Titan of the constellations. He was the ram, the pillar of the south, who organized the stars into the patterns that sailors and travelers would use for eternity. He was a stoic figure, a master of the cold, glittering night. And in the west stood the most pivotal of the four pillars, Iapetus. He was the Titan of mortality and the piercer. While his brothers held up the corners of the sky, Iapetus represented the span of a human life. He was the father of the most famous second-generation Titans, and it was through him that the concept of a finite existence began to take shape in a world of immortals. Yet, not all Titans were defined by the physical world. Some were masters of the abstract, the forces that govern the soul and society. Mnemosyne was the Titaness of memory. In a time before writing, memory was the only way the universe could hold on to its own history. She was the mother of the Muses, and it was said that she knew everything that had ever happened since the dawn of time. Without her, the deeds of gods and men would vanish like smoke. Beside her stood Themis, the Titaness of divine law and order. She was the voice of Gaia herself, the one who established the rules of hospitality, justice, and the natural order. She was not a judge who punished, but a visionary who saw how things should be. Even the later gods of Olympus would tremble before the quiet authority of Themis, for she was the backbone of civilization. But the heart of the Titan age belonged to the youngest and most formidable of the 12, Cronus and Rhea. Cronus was the Titan of time, not the gentle ticking of a clock, but the destructive, all-consuming force of the ages. He was the crooked one, the only son brave enough to answer his mother Gaia's plea for help. Uranus, their father, had grown cruel, hiding his monstrous children, the Cyclopes and the Hecatonchires, deep within the earth. Gaia, in her agony, fashioned a sickle of flint and begged her sons to strike. Only Cronus stepped forward. With one swift, terrible blow, he castrated his father and separated the sky from the earth forever. With Uranus defeated, Cronus ascended to the throne of the universe. Beside him was Rhea, the Titaness of motherhood and the flow of life. Her power was the gentle counterpart to Cronus's harshness. She was the mother of the first generation of Olympians, yet her reign was defined by tragedy. Cronus, haunted by a prophecy that his own children would overthrow him just as he had overthrown his father, began to devour his offspring as soon as they were born. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon all were swallowed by the abyss of time. Rhea's grief was the catalyst for the end of the Titan age. When her sixth child, Zeus, was born, she deceived Cronus, giving him a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes to swallow instead. She hid Zeus on the island of Crete, where he grew in secret, preparing for the war that would shatter the world. As Zeus rose to power, the world saw the emergence of the second generation of Titans, the sons and daughters of the original 12. These beings were often more specialized, their stories more intertwined with the fate of humanity. Chief among them were the sons of Iapetus, Atlas, Prometheus, Epimetheus, and Menetius. Atlas was the personification of endurance. During the Great War between the Titans and the Olympians, the Titanomachy, Atlas served as the general of the Titan armies. He was a Titan of immense physical strength and tactical brilliance. When the Titans were finally defeated, Zeus did not cast Atlas into the pits of Tartarus like the others. Instead, he gave him a unique and eternal punishment: to stand at the edge of the world and hold the weight of the celestial sphere on his shoulders. Atlas became the literal pillar that keeps the heavens from crashing down upon the earth, a figure of eternal suffering and monumental strength. His brother Prometheus was the Titan of forethought. He was perhaps the greatest friend humanity ever had. Prometheus saw the potential in the shivering, weak creatures that crawled upon the earth and sought to give them a future. He famously stole fire from the hearth of the gods and brought it down to earth, giving mankind the tools of civilization, art, and survival. For this act of rebellion, Zeus chained him to a mountain in the Caucasus, where an eagle would tear at his liver every day, only for it to regrow at night. Prometheus represents the sacrifice required for progress, the Titan who suffered so that we might thrive. Contrast this with his brother, Epimetheus, the Titan of afterthought. While Prometheus looked to the future, Epimetheus only understood things after they had happened. He was the one who accepted the gift of Pandora from the gods, despite his brother's warnings. When Pandora opened her jar, releasing all the evils and sorrows into the world, Epimetheus could only watch in regret. He represents the impulsive nature of the mind, the hard lessons learned too late. Their fourth brother, Menetius, was the Titan of rash action and hubris. He was struck down by Zeus's lightning during the war for his arrogance, serving as a warning of what happens when a Titan's power is not tempered by wisdom. The children of Hyperion and Thea continued the legacy of light. Helios was the Titan of the sun, the one who drove the golden chariot across the sky every day. He saw everything that happened on Earth, his eyes piercing through every shadow. His sister Selene was the Titaness of the moon, the silver-clad rider of the night who brought sleep and dreams to the world. And then there was Eos, the dawn, the rosy-fingered goddess who opened the gates of heaven each morning. These three ensured that the world was never left in total darkness, maintaining the rhythm of day and night that governs all living things. The lineage of Coeus and Phoebe brought forth Leto and Asteria. Leto was a titaness of modesty and motherhood, whose journey to give birth to Apollo and Artemis was one of the most harrowing tales in mythology. Persecuted by a jealous Hera, Leto wandered the earth, unable to find a place to rest, until the floating island of Delos took her in. Her children would become two of the most powerful Olympians, bridging the gap between the old world and the new. Her sister, Asteria, was the titaness of falling stars and divination by the night sky. To escape the advances of Zeus, she transformed herself into a quail and dove into the sea, becoming the very island of Delos where her sister would later find refuge. Creus's sons, Astraeus, Pallas, and Perses, represented the more violent and elemental forces of the cosmos. Astraeus was the father of the winds and the stars, the one who organized the dusk. Pallas was the titan of battle and the art of war, whose power was later absorbed by Athena. Perses was the titan of destruction, a dark and looming figure whose name alone commanded dread. Through Perses came one of the most mysterious figures in all of Greek myth, Hecate. Though often associated with the gods, Hecate was a titaness by blood, the mistress of magic, crossroads, and the night. She was so respected that even Zeus allowed her to retain her ancient powers over the earth, sea, and sky after the fall of the Titans. The end of the Titan Age was not a quiet fading, but a cataclysm. The Titanomachy lasted 10 years, a war that tore the mountains from their roots and boiled the oceans. The elder Titans, led by Cronus, fought from Mount Othrys, while the young Olympians fought from Mount Olympus. It was a clash of eras, the raw, primordial power of the Titans against the organized, strategic power of the gods. In the end, Zeus used the very brothers Cronus had imprisoned, the Cyclops and the Hecatoncheires, to turn the tide. The Cyclops forged the thunderbolts, and the Hecatoncheires, with their 100 arms, rained mountains of stone down upon the Titans. When the dust settled, the reign of the Titans was over. Cronus and most of his brothers were cast into the deepest, darkest pit of the underworld, Tartarus. They were locked behind gates of bronze and guarded by the 100-handed giants they had once despised. The world was divided among the sons of Cronus. Zeus took the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. Yet, the Titans were never truly gone. They are the bedrock upon which the world is built. We see Oceanus in the rhythm of the tides. We feel Hyperion in the warmth of the sun. We hear Mnemosyne in every story told of the past. They represent the untamed forces of nature that the Olympians sought to govern. The Titans were the first to shape the clay of the universe, and though they were defeated, their essence remains in the wind, the earth, and the very passage of time. They are the reminder that before there was order, there was power, vast, terrifying, and beautiful. The age of the Titans may have ended in fire and chains, but their legacy is the world itself, an eternal monument to the giants who came before the gods.
If you liked this video, please hit the like and subscribe button for more.